Hello guys, welcome back. In this series, we are learning how to test Angular project using JEST. So far, we have learned JEST introduction and how to configure JEST in Angular project and JEST matches. Now in this video, we are going to see how to test services in Angular project using JEST. We will see get call, post call, and we will also see the coverage report generated for that. Let's jump in. First, let me create a service. For that, ng generate service, and we will create it under folder services. Then I am creating a service named fake service fake. Okay, we have created the service. It will be inside the app folder. Just collapse and expand again. Okay, we have the services created. So here it is. Let us open the service. So right now the service is empty. We don't have any method calls here. So let us create a method call first. I'll create a get call. Get data version 1. Okay. So this will return observables. So we will mention observable type. And you can give the type of the response. I'm just typing any. In your case, it will be in your API response structure. Okay, so here I will give a URL. I'm going to use a JSON placeholder API URL, which is a fake URL, which you can hit and get any response. So I'll copy paste that. So this is the URL. When you hit this URL, you will get some dummy records. Okay, and I am returning this dot. So here we need to make a HTTP call. For that, we need to inject HTTP client into our service. First, we'll inject a HTTP client. HTTP client. Okay, so here we'll import this. Okay, so in our system, it doesn't shows that auto import feature, which means we have not imported this in the module. I'll import HTTP client module. Okay, we have mentioned the imports. In some cases, it will be auto imported. If yours is not auto import, then type the import. HTTP client module from @Angular common HTTP semicolon. Let's save it. Okay, now our errors are gone. Okay, here now we can import this model. Like you could see that quick fixes now showing. Okay, we have imported it, or you can manually type also. Then we will trigger the get request. This dot http dot get. Here we are going to pass the URL. Okay, so this is a simple get request. We are just calling this URL and getting the response. It's a JSON response. So we have mentioned observable response type here. We will test this method now. Here they have written the default test cases using the test bed approach. There are two types of approach. One is using the test bed. Another is using the constructor approach. We will see the constructor approach first. Then later we will see the test bed approach. We'll remove this. Okay, nothing else. Just removing this test bed, that's enough, and remove the test bed imports. Okay, now we are good to go. Now let's create a service. So now we are creating a service instance here. fake service, and here we need to inject a HTTP client here. So whatever the services you have injected, you need to import all those things, dependencies here. So for that, first we will create a mock for that. So now we are testing only this service. So we don't want to test HTTP client or anything else. So we will directly use a mock functions for this. So whatever the services you write here, always use mock. So we are going to test only fake service, not nothing else. So we will write test cases only for that, and the remaining things should be mocked. Okay. Now let HTTP client spy. So this is the mock and we are setting it as type any. So this one we will pass it here. Yes. So we have created a variable HTTP client spy and we have passed it to our fake service. So which since we have only one dependency, then this will assume that we are passing this one. Okay, but it doesn't know whether this HTTP client spy has methods like the get one or the post one, whatever you have created. But for that we need to inform. So for that we need to inform the HTTP client spy has get and post methods. For that we will write HTTP client spy equal to, and we'll create it as an object. In this object we have one method named get. So this is what we have used in our service file. Then, and the way to mock functions in jest is jest.fn. So this will create a mock for the get call. Okay, now we have created a mock for the HTTP client. Let's save it. Okay, now we have created the variables what we wanted for service and then HTTP client spy. Now we will test the method. Let's write a it case should return. Okay, should test get data v1. Okay, okay, so here we are going to test this method get data v1. So here this method doesn't take any input parameters. It just trigger a method call http.getCall by passing the URL, nothing else. It doesn't pass any HTTP options or not even any. It's not a post call, right? We don't need to pass any post calls, but the query params, it doesn't have any query params or nothing. Okay, so we are just calling the get and by passing the URL. So we will test whether this method is triggering the HTTP get call by passing this URL. So we will test that one. So since this is a get call, this will return some data. So first we will create a expected records and we will mock this HTTP get with that record. I'm creating a response as a string Techopsworld. Here I am going to create a URL const URL and the URL which we have defined here. So we want to test, right, whether this is the URL is getting triggered or not. Okay, I have two things now, and then let us mock the function just.spyon. So this is how you mock any functions. So here we are going to mock http dot get call. So http client spy comma the get. So we have only one method here get. So we are marking that one, and it should return a observable response. So mock return value. So here you can set like normal response, but our method will return observable response. To make it observable, wrap it with of operator. This is an operator from RxJS. You can do the quick fix. So you have to import it from the RxJS. Okay, so it is imported from the RxJS. Now this HTTP client .get call returns a observable response. Okay, so we have everything ready. Now we will trigger the method service dot whatever the methods present in our service will be displayed here. You can select that, and we are not passing any value to the method. So that's it. This is how you trigger a method in the service. Okay, now we will expect HTTP client spy dot get is called or not. Okay, dot to be called. We can also check how many times it has been called. So by our implementation, it should get triggered only once. So we will check whether it is called one time. And also we can check whether this method, okay, so whether this HTTP get call is triggered by passing this URL or not. You can also expect that. Expect HTTP client spy dot get dot to have been called with. Okay, then pass the URL which we have mentioned here. Okay, so here let's save it. Here we are testing two things. One is in this method the HTTP get call is getting triggered or not. Another thing is whether this get call is passed with this URL or not. So these are the two things we are testing. Now we will run our test case. We will run our test case in the watch mode. Okay, npm run test :watch. If you have not seen our first videos, please take a look. We have mentioned all the scripts inside the package.json. Here, this is test :watch. This is running just in the watch flag. Okay, all our test cases has been passed. Whatever we have defined in the fake service, it got passed. So we have two test cases there. Now let's see version 2 of get call. Let me create a method for that. It's same as this method, but we are going to modify little changes. So here instead of v1, it should be v2. So here after getting the response, we are going to use pipe from the observable, and I'm going to use the tap operator as well. So here you will be logging all the data into your logging server if needed, or whatever the things you are going to do, you can do it here. I'm going to just log it. Data fetched. Here it's saying like data is declared, we have not used. So let's also print the data. Now see, the data is implicitly has any type. If you know the type of response you get from the JSON, then you can mention the type here. Otherwise, mention it any. It's always better to use the type that JSON response, not any. Okay, and let's import the tap operator as from the RxJS. So now we will catch the error as well. Catch error. This is also from RxJS. Make sure you import catch error observable tap from RxJS. And this dot will create a method to handle the error. Handle error. So it's we are saying it's a fail to fetch data. Okay, we don't have the handle error method created. Okay, now let's create the handle error method. I have the codes are already created, so I'm just copy pasted it here to save the time. Let's import the HTTP error response from the Angular common HTTP. So in your case, this handle error method will be completely different based on your project. So here I'm just showing if it is getting failed, the API call gets failed, what we are how we are handling the error. So we are just triggering the handle error method, and here we are throwing the error with the operation and all those messages. Okay, just leave about this. So here after getting the response, we are using the pipe operator and we are using tap and catch error. So let's see how to test all this. Okay, so this is the version 2 of the get call. Let's save this. So this is same as this one. Let's copy paste this one. Okay, now this will be v2. We'll mention everything as the same response and the same URL and the same call, HTTP get call, and here instead of v1 it's a v2. Okay, so here we are going to test whether the response what we are passed to mock for the get call, is it the same one which this method is responding or not. For that we need to subscribe to that. So this is, since this is an observable response type, we have to use this .subscribe. Okay, so if you subscribe to observable response, there will be two things here. There will be two things. One, the first case is if the test is getting passed, and the another case is if the test is getting failed. So if it is getting passed, first we need to use next, and then what is the data it returns. Okay, so if the API call gets passed for the get data v2, then it comes into this block. We will expect the data which comes from here is equal to the data we have mentioned here, the response. This is the expected response. Since we have mocked the HTTP client get call with this response, then if we call this one and if we subscribe to that, we will get this response. That is our expectation. And since this is of asynchronous call, we should wrap it with done. Here you have to use a done and done. Okay, so this makes it as an asynchronous test call. This will wait for the data to respond. Whenever you have a asynchronous code in your application, just like this one, because here we are making the get call and it goes to the server, and we are not sure when the server returns the response. It may take some milliseconds to seconds for that. So just needs to know when the code testing has been completed before it can move to another test. So for that, to let the JEST aware of it is as an asynchronous call, we should not use an empty parameters like here. We should use a single argument as done. So JEST will wait until the done callback is called before finishing the test. So here we are making the done callback. So here we are passing the done as an argument and we are making the call here. So JEST will wait until this call is getting triggered. So if you miss to call this one, JEST will fail with the timeout error, which means it doesn't know when the response has been response comes to the, which means it doesn't know when. Here if you miss to do this callback, the done one, then the test doesn't know when the system Here, if you miss to call this callback, done callback, then the test doesn't know when the response comes. So it will fail with a timeout error. So always make sure if you are using asynchronous, then call with a callback done. Let's save this one. And if it is error case, now for the error, we will just do the console.log. Let's save this. Okay, so here what we are doing is we are triggering the get call and subscribe to the response. Since it is now of observable type, so we have to do the dot subscribe. Then it returns with the two properties, one with the next and another one with the error. So if it is success case, in our case it is success. We are returning a successful response. So it obviously enters into this mode. So it comes with this data, and with this data we are checking whatever we have passed, that is coming hit here or not, because this is how it works. Okay, so this is the get call. Once this get call happen, since we have mocked this get call with to respond this value, so it will come here, and we are checking whether whatever we have mocked, that is the response, it's coming it here or not, and we are doing the callback. Since we have passed it done as an argument to mention that it's an asynchronous code, then we have to do the callback of done. And here in the error, we are just logging it, but in our case it will never go to here because our case will get passed here itself. So this is a success scenario. Here if you see, we have a console.log data fetched. It's a data fetched, and whatever the data we have passed, it's printed here. So this is what we have logging it here. So whatever the data we are passing there, it's came here, and we are printing the data. Console.log data fetch. So that is what it is printed in the console. So okay, so we have the test case passed. This is the successful scenario. Now let's see the error scenario. So let's copy this one. Okay, so we are going to create an error scenario now. So here we are going to test whether it is throwing the error or not. So so here should get data v2 throw error. So this is what is the test case for this. So here we are going to check this scenario. Previously we have covered this line. Now we will cover this line, whether it is triggering this method or not. So our test will cover this method. So the response we will have to create is the error response. Const error response new HTTP error response. And we'll mention what is the error. It's a test 404 error. So we are going to check 404 error. And we'll have the status 404 and the status text as not found. So these are the properties defined in the HTTP response. If you see here, it has the error, status text and status. So that is what we have defined, and we have mentioned some values for that. So now we have the error response created. So this is what we are going to throw it now. So whenever we mock this one, this is for the successful response. For the error response, we have to use throw error operator from the RxJS. So now this will throw error response. Make sure it is imported from the RxJS. Here we could see that a throw error now got deprecated. So instead we have to do a newer version. So here instead pass factory functions to the throw error. So we will do that way. Just make it as an function, factory function. Okay, now we have mocked the error response. Now let's call to this one. Here we are not going to test this scenario because we have already covered this scenario in another test case. So this is, we are testing for the error scenario. So here we will just do the console.log data. Okay, same as what we have done for the error previously, since it is never going to trigger this call. So here once the error comes, okay, let's wrap it in a parenthesis. So here we will expect error dot message. Okay, it's a property from the error. Okay, that message we are checking whether it contains to contain the message we have mentioned it here or not. So here in this case we are expecting this error message contains the error we have mentioned or not. Okay, then since it is an asynchronous call, we have to do the callback. Done. Let's save it. Okay, so all our test case has been passed and we have the error has printed as well. So if you see, we have the test cases has been passed. So this is the error got printed here. So you don't need to worry. So this was the error which we are printing it. So now we have covered all these methods we have mentioned, the get call and the get version 2. And here, since we have covered this catch error, it automatically triggers this method as well, and this one also getting covered there. Now let's see the post call. For that, we will create a method with post call. Here it will be same as this one. Instead of get data, let's say it as a post data. Instead of get call, it will be the post call. So here we need to pass some data. Okay, so what is that data? So we'll pass that data here. So okay, so whatever the data comes here, it passes here. So this is the post call. So this is the simple post call. We will also pass some headers. Const HTTP options. We'll pass a headers. Headers new. It's of type HTTP headers. Let's say content type application JSON. Okay, so this will pass it here. HTTP options. Let's save this code. So here we have created a simple post call and it's triggering this URL and passing the data which we are passing to this method, and we have added some headers. So you can add all your headers here with the comma separated, authorization, the tokens, everything. Now we will test this method. Now we will create an it for post call. Post it should test post data v1. So here we need to pass a value to this method. So we have to pass the data to this method, and there will be some response, expected response for this call, and the URL. So we need to define all these three. Let's say the command as testing. So this is what we are passing to that method, and let's say the expected response is Techopsworld, and the URL we can use the same URL. Okay, in your case the URL will be different. I'm just showing a demo here. Okay, here we have all the URLs, everything is ready, right? So now let's spy the post call. So still now we have only get call defined in our spec file, but we have the post call as well. Now we need to add the post entry as well here in the spy. Post jest.fn. So now we have added the post as well. Now we will mock the HTTP client post jest.spy on HTTP client spy, post. So whatever the methods you have to add each entries here, and then you need to mock all those things. If you are using update or delete, do the same thing what we are doing for the get and post call. Here mock return value of response. So it's same as this previous one. We are just marking the response as observable. Now let's trigger the method service.post data v1. So whatever the methods we have defined in the service, it's all listed here. We can select one, and we need to pass the argument. So we are passing command. So this will be the payload which we are going to send it to the server. So now we will expect this HTTP client spy dot post call is getting triggered or not. Let's see the same one to be called times 1. Okay, let's save it. So you can expect whichever scenarios you wanted to expect, but this is how we have to trigger this method. Okay, our test cases has been passed. So the post call got succeeded. So this is how you test a post HTTP call. Now let's see the coverages. Till now whatever we have covered for this, for all these methods. Let's stop this watch mode. Let's generate a coverage npm run test coverage. So this is a script we have defined in our package.json. If you have not seen our configuration for Angular video, please take a look. Our coverage report got generated. Let's open the coverage report. So here we have the coverage report. Let's open this folder in the Explorer. So here is the services we have created. Okay, so we have covered the get call and the get version 2 and the post data 1, and here we have covered these scenarios as well. So we could see all our functions got tested we have a 100% coverage in our line. So this is how you test services in Angular project using JEST. In our next chapter, we will see how to test Angular component using JEST.